Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 551. I am your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining us. We're over the hump of mid-February, going towards the end of the month. As we all know, it's a shorter month, but good in the sense that we're aware of what happened with January with Solidarity. As we're pushing now into our spring cycle, I'm speaking more about the domestic U.S., obviously. Weather's been a strange influencer, whether it's the media hype associated with it or the true ramifications of it. But it is very dynamic and very much changing how we can forecast our business when it comes to the impacts of weather variations to it. You think of the weather that's coming from the West Coast right now, how it's affecting snow, where they were having a challenging amount of snow for the mountain regions for tourism, and now all of a sudden they're dealing with the tragedies of loss of life and so forth from avalanches and persistently bad weather as the snow builds. And then you look at the nor'easters and so forth that go through upper United States, New England area, Midwest. Tragic, terrible, not tragic, but terrible tornadoes that occurred in Midwest Illinois. Just these things have something has to be calculated into our processes as to how we market. That requires us to have flexibility in our budgets. We often discuss this about stress testing budgets and understanding how we can shift what we do from particular channels, but also having contingencies about how we relate to the guest and how well we respond to their needs for cancellation, rebookings, and our efforts to recapture those bookings and so forth. Then I'll realize through the communication that we have with our guests. Marketing is communication. It's not just giving them the message we want, but it's also working with them so that we have a two-way understanding of what their expectations are and what we can do to fulfill and exceed their expectations. So with that, today's topic, I was going to keep with our continuity of AI. I thought we'd take a break from that for this week's conversation. I want to get into something we have brought up before. This is not a new topic to the idea, but one that is more and more important as more and more content relevancy becomes valuable to our strategy of engagement with our guests, as generative AI intercedes more into the dialogue that guests have with our content and their discovery of us and how they perceive us. The old adage of first impressions are the best impressions, in the sense that it is what people first establish their understanding of you on, and it either validates or modifies from that point forward. That's both good and bad. If it's a good first impression, are you re-emphasizing that good first impression, or are you deteriorating it that it wasn't what they first thought you were? And in reverse, a bad first impression, are you able to dig yourself out of that hole that you inadvertently put yourself in? Or are you amplifying why their first impression of you negatively is being reinforced and validated? This goes to the communication cycle that we have with our guests, that process of engagement. I've often made jokes about the fact that if you think about our interaction communication with our guests, like you're going out as a single person looking for that connection in public places and so forth, you don't jump to the conclusion of the conversation at the very beginning of the conversation. You work through a process of discovery with whom you're talking to better first understand, is this a person that is interested? And if so, do they qualify? And if so, do they feel the same in reciprocation to it, and on and on? You're doing that same dance when you come to your guest interaction. So think of it as relationship building, really, literally, in your process of communication for marketing. To that end, most everybody that I deal with when I first get to approach them from a client relationship or consulting relationship or what have you, are missing this. Very few, actually only one time was it that they actually had a progressive process of communication, content communication with a guest that wasn't working well because they were a little too abbreviated in their steps. But at least they had steps. 99.9% of the time, nobody has steps. You've heard me bemoan this fact many times. When I first approach how ad structure is built in any particular platform, the easiest to point to is Google. There's usually two categories of campaigns that are built. You have branded and non-branded. Branded, of course, is the relationship with the name of the business. Easiest pickings, because if people are searching for you by name, then obviously you want to be present. easy and high convertible, kind of the low-hanging fruit to the whole process, and what most agencies rely upon is their success ratio. Then you have the non-branded, and that's a little bit more ambiguous. Most of the times, unfortunately, it's very statically contained to the impact of the NAP information, name, address, phone number, you're located in, you're related to, you're nearby this, you're tethered to destination or what have you. And it's relatively generic that you're wanting to simply be in the content that's discovered from the broader choice of options that you may be a participant in. You're one of many hotels under consideration because of the destination that they're looking at, or you're one of many hotels under consideration because of the proximity to something, or you may be one of many hotels because of an event-driven something. These are the non-branded things, and they're very limited. Oftentimes, again, in previous shows, we've talked about this a lot, where usually in categories of 5 ad sets, usually it's content-driven for a call to action immediately. Hey, closest to, check our best rates. Number one of something, check our rates. It's very much get to the end of the chase from the very conversation beginning, and that's a detriment because they're not completely aware of everything that you are in comparison to whom else they should consider, and getting them to push to purchase without filling in that gap of understanding why they should is where most places fall down. They don't fill that gap in. If you were to think of this as a progression of engagement, okay, then you know that the content has to evolve from the initial engagement to better clarity, better understanding. There's a process, as everyone refers to funnels and so forth, but there's a workflow to it. So this is a long introduction, as we normally are famous for, to our topic today, which is marketing past the first engagement. I'm not going to try to, and we've done so many other shows already, talk about how to improve your branded, non-branded comparison capabilities and what you should do to diversify them and expand on them and create variations and how they are tailored differently to each channel. We've had those discussions. You can go to hospitalitychannel.tv, look up engagement or marketing engagement or brand channel engagements and ad campaign variants and so forth. And you'll find literally dozens of shows that the topic has been introduced in, with dozens of guest hosts that have talked to us about their perspectives on it as well. So to leaving that to self-discovery, if you're truly interested in it, we're going to talk about a little bit more granularity of that progressive conversation past the first engagement. What do you do? So you have an ad that is about just what we talked about, either your brand awareness and or your non-branded, specific to a tethered relationship, best of, din, down, there, nearby, what have you. What happens after that? And again, going back to the idea of building a relationship and a progressive engagement, think of it, you can think of it as a ladder if you want, where you go from first engagement to what then happens the second engagement. The first thing that you have to solidify in your mind is that the content should be different, but tethered to the first content. If they engaged with you because of a particular value proposition of your proximity or your ranking or your affiliation or your amenity or whatever it is, that portion of the uniqueness of the ad that is engaged should carry into the next conversation, not verbatim, not duplicated, which all too often all they do is take the same ad and keep regurgitating it in a frequency of with the person. So they're seeing the same ad over and over, and we all have had that frequency aspect, that saturation thing that drives us away from the potential of doing business with them, because the frustration of it being so permeated in everything that, oh my God, I touched their website, now their ad is showing up everywhere, and worst off, it's the same thing I already know. What you want to do is make the next engagement from that a continuation with addition. First, and sticking with the Google process because it's easier to understand and the functionality is a little bit more consistently aware of for larger audiences, is by creating an audience associated with who is engaged with your ad, and then using that as the re-engagement, the targeting for the next ad to be displayed. You're taking those people that have engaged with your first ad, and you're identifying them as the progression of the next ad they will see. First, you negative out that group from the first ad so that you don't reconstitute the initial ad that they saw just because they're in the same queue that they started with. You negative them up. This audience now gets taken away from this ad being shown. The second ad, for the continuity of what they were engaged with the first ad, is what the audience sees. Now, that ad can also still show to unknowns first touches, okay? But the real leverage of that second edition is to those that have already touched the first edition. This is where the content tethered to the first content stays, but like any progressive conversation in a relationship starter or discovery of a relationship, it's about seeing what is the next engagement type. Let's take it as an event-driven aspect. You put an ad out because of your relationship to an event in your market. People touch that ad in Google. You created an audience from that, and now that audience sees a second ad version. We know that they're interested in the event, and we know that we gave very limited details as a call of interest of recognizing that we're related to it or in proximity or of supporting it or whatever the connection is. They responded to that ad. That gets reaffirmed in the second ad. But then you expand upon the value that you referred to in the second ad. Now, again, if you think of this as progression, your first ad is more like an inspiration cold call audience. Hi, how are you? You're here, I'm here, let's talk. That aspect of it, okay, is about awareness that we have a value to what you're interested in, which is why you touched our ad. A lot of things that work well for this is short form videos, some good visualizations about you being, the front of your hotel with the backdrop of the place that they're talking about, or previous pictures of your involvement with the event that they're looking at, that you're in relationship to, kind of thing. Very light, very specific. You're not hard selling. You're not hard coding rates and dates. It's not that they can't get to your website. It's not that they can't get to knowing that information. It's not the highlight of the ad. Now, keep in mind, all of this is related to the landing page as well. All ads must have specific content to the ad that they are running for. If you're having an ad run about something, you should have a landing page about that something. And in this case, the ad about why you're related to what they're interested in connects to a page that has a lot more information, should they get that far. And of course, the easy call to actions and everything else that you're hoping for. But it's not the main feature of the initial ad. You're really just saying, hey, if you're interested in this event, we're related to it this way. They engage with that ad. Great. Here's more reasons to continue that conversation with us. Okay. This again goes to the idea that you're creating the audience from engagement. Now, there's different types of audience. There's viewership of impressions, and there's actual engagements. They are treated differently. Viewership of the ad, okay, where it was exposed because of their search query, is treated as a separate continuous engagement than those that engaged with your ad, because those are more advanced awareness. They clicked on what your ad was wanting them to click on, that went to the landing page that has additional information. That creates a much warmer lead relationship or relationship building than those that just were exposed to your ad. So remember, everything branches out very quickly from each engagement with an ad type. So ad number one, seen or enacted, creates audiences. Negative to those that engaged with it so that they don't see the same initial ad again. Those that just impressed with it see a different ad, but you don't exclude them from seeing the first ad. Okay, they get to see now another ad in addition, preferably in prioritization to the previous. And you can scale that. Okay, talk to your provider as to how that happens. But I'm going to chase down the tail of those people that engaged with your ad, went to your landing page for the additional information, but nothing really happened from that conversion. Okay. Now there is a second ad. Now this ad for them has a little bit more of a value enhancement to it, okay? This is where you're trying to get with the consideration aspect of them. They've seen you, they're aware of you better than just having been exposed to your ad, and they weren't ready to make a decision, but they're now aware of you, okay? Not everybody just goes, oh, I'll buy it now and figure it out later. That's later down in the engagement discussions, okay? I'll have a date with you, but I'll also have a date with them. We'll see which one I like better, This kind of next step of consideration is to provide value to the user at this point. Now that they've engaged with you, didn't call to action with you, but they're more aware of you and they've taken the effort to see what it is you had to say about yourself. Enhance the value with them. This goes into conversation or content types of property highlights, comparison content, why what you have is of better value than other things that they might not be knowing about other things. You're not going to sell your comp set, but you're going to say why what you have is a highlight in compared to other things they do or do not know about that you find more valuable, that you have a shuttle that goes to the event, or you have whatever staying at your hotel, or you have a special event for the event, or you have walking distance, or you have whatever it is that's unique to you for it in comparison to what may not be available for other people that they would be exposed to. Okay. You can at this point also include things of like how to plan for things. You can direct them to additional content of things not to miss, great places to dine other than our restaurant. But hey, you're not going to a hotel to eat at a hotel restaurant when there might be something local around the corner. Feature it. If it's around your corner, then feature it, or things to discover other than just the event so that there's a more value proposition to making the effort of the trip. Maybe they haven't decided to actually pull the trigger on the trip. You're helping in that conversion process in addition to selling them to stay with you. This is the time you introduce that additional value relationship in the second stage of content for those that acted on your first ad. For those that just were exposed to your first ad, you expose them to, again, a different version of the first ad, but you're not giving them as much. You're reaffirming what they first saw that they didn't act on by saying it a different way. You create an ad variation similar to the first with the same type of initial engagement, inspiration type of like, did you know that we're right around the corner from this? Or, hey, this is a great event to go to, especially since we're so convenient for you to be able to do it, how easy it is for you to enjoy the event, whatever, okay? So we're following the string down about those that actually engaged with the ad. You create more of a value proposition under the second stage, which is the consideration stage, providing more value of the content because they engaged with your first step to this. Again, this happens at a long enough window out from whatever it is that's triggering this event. This is longer, earlier process. You're not expecting the conversion from this second ad. If you get it, wonderful. Any conversions you're getting from these things are wonderful. The confidence factor of early conversions is actually less than having later conversions because early conversions might mean that they want to grab it to keep it in a queue just in case they want to do it and or till they find something better. So it's not as certain that it's going to follow through with an actualization, but at least you gave them all the things that they're interested enough to know to grab it, which is great. But the confidence of retaining it versus later conversion is much less than the later conversion. So let's say that they still have not, and to all expectations, nor should we expect a lot of this retargeting value, which because it's happening anywhere from 7 to 30 days out. Now you're in the window of closing and compressing to that conversion window, okay, that we're all very famously familiar for. Now more than ever, we know that there's a later and later and later conversion window to actual booking for dates of arrival. And it's getting tighter and faster in all aspects of our business development. Even group business is kind of okay, planes seem to be flying without some interruption. The weather seems to be good, cooperating without creating delays. Let's do this thing. Let's go to this event. So they are, in fact, shortening their decision process. So we got to not think that if we're not at pace at a certain level historically compared to what we're doing now, that it's a failure. We have to take into account the dynamics of people's booking decision has changed even from last year to this year. So the third interaction of the ladder, the stage, the progression, okay, of content is really going into the high intent users. Because we already said the second stage is somewhere around 3 weeks to just before 7 days before arrival. So 30-day window. We're getting into that. Now it's getting a little bit more about enacting their consideration to turning into an intent. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna take this trip. I'm going to go to this event. I found this hotel, that hotel, this hotel. I'm interested in that thing, this thing, that thing. This hotel's close to that, but that hotel's close to that. But this rate for this hotel is this. We don't know what's in their mind, but we know these things are happening because that's what we do. Okay. So now your next piece of content is to remove the frictions that they're probably looking at in comparison of you versus them. You know from your SWOT analysis in your market where you are lacking compared to a comp that might be better at what you can't do. Maybe they're closer to the event. Maybe they have shuttle service and you don't. Maybe they have newer rooms and you don't. Maybe they have a lower rate and you don't. Maybe they have any restaurants and you don't. Maybe they're closer to the restaurants that are more interesting. You don't. Whatever it is, you need to remove the friction value of that comparison by pushing the conversation to more of why what you're giving them counteracts any of the other considerations that might be against you. This is where pricing becomes more of a figure in your conversation. Your offers, the limited time window offers, the package offers, where we include our shuttle in ours, or we include breakfast in ours, or whatever it is. You know what you have to counterbalance from your SWOT analysis of your comp set to counterbalance the demand that's coming to your market for this event, that they can be better at it than you are. You have to give a counterbalance of value to solicit this now triggered relationship there, to remove the friction as to, okay, you're in this consideration with your intent, okay? The third tier, third stage, third content piece, we're dealing with this engagement of the guest. And again, we're following the trail of the people that actually engaged with what you offered. First engagement of the ad went to going to where you asked them to go to. Second engagement of what you told them to go to, they followed through and looked at that as well. So you're following the highest value engagement through this process. And again, the audiences are custom from each of the engagements so that the next iteration of content, this being the third stage of that engagement, is specific to the people that came from the direct engagement of the second engagement. Those that didn't engage with the second engagement, they engaged with the first ad, but they didn't engage with the second ad, get a redo of the second ad as a variation. Those that engaged with the second get this third part that we're talking about, which is now removing the points of friction, how to push the conversion, how to create the trigger for them to look at what you're offering. Again, now there's a bit of a slight urgency in the messaging of saying, as this gets closer, options begin to diminish. We can offer these things, but the later you wait, the possibility they may not exist, all that pressure that we tend to offer with limited time stuff. And also you want to do validation conversations. This is where you bring in your social proof, your user-generated content. You're validating that what you've been saying about what you're offering is indeed true from the user-generated content, from the endorsements, from the reviews that says, we're telling you the truth. And why we're telling you that this is a good time to pick us is because of these offers we're making. You're pushing the conversion, okay? This goes to, now you're introducing variations of the third generation of ads and sense of dynamic ads, where you're talking about dates and pricing, very specific to what you brought them through. You know they're interested in this event. You don't need to talk to them about other things that are going on. You don't need to talk about other rates that are available that aren't applicable to what they're interested in. You're talking very specific to the dates and range of what it is that the content has been about. If any of your engagements had a solicitation of email or messaging, this is where you try to use this influence on, this is the opportunity. You can create, use unique value if they did give you, if you solicited an email from them as a lead gen of saying, keeping up with the latest to-dos or updates or whatever, or we have a whole newsletter out of the second stage that says, or not newsletter, but a guide as to how to plan your perfect trip for this event. And they gave your email, which is your request to get it. This is when you slip in the unique factor to them. This is when you put into because you did that, we're offering something that we're not offering everybody else. This is that intent. This is where you're pushing them towards the conversion value, is the third stage of engagement for that. At that point, you need to let it rest. You can go more, and there are certain circumstances where a fourth generation or even a fifth generation, depending upon how much of a lead time you have between when you're engaging with them versus the value of the event. Take a point. There's a festival that's in a city that happens every year. It's a high demand festival. People love going to it. That's great. It's a Super Bowl. That's different. And so a Super Bowl, you talk, we'll just take it as an example for now. You talk earlier, longer. And so you have more stages of frequency that you can solicit engagement for optimizing the value that you're charging for. different strategy. But the point is being there's different priorities as to what you're pushing, which means you have different lead times. Okay. Strangely enough, if you see a diminished demand for events in your market, you want to extend your lead time because you want to create and solicit excitement about something that people either are unaware of, didn't realize how cool it was, but they need to be educated longer before they ever get to the conversation of what they're going to buy from you. So there's lots of reasons to change the duration of engagement depending upon how popular it is or how obscure it is. It's really about, can you derive demand to that event that wasn't derived before? If you're just simply waiting and reacting to the demand that comes to your market because of the event, what we're talking about works this way. If you're looking at something that's new and people are unfamiliar with what the value is for having it happen, you have to help your destination market to go farther out in time to begin to solicit the interest about this event long before you begin to talk about your value proposition, long before you talk about the cost of engagement with you. So you have to, plant your own seeds when it comes to that. So this process, this engagement process of going past the first engagement and modifying your content correspondingly to the engagement that you get from each one of those is just not done. It's not done much. There are great organizations that do it. There's good organizations that try it. And then there's the other 98, 99% of all agencies or businesses that just do here's our ads brand, here's our ad non-brand. Oh, we have that event coming up. Hey, buy now and save. Get your XYZ event stuff bookings. Here's our rate, book link direct. Wow, thank you, Captain Obvious. If I'm interested, I'll know that you probably have a rate for it. I know those things. We have a better educated consumer than we have ever in our history. We have a better aware consumer as to smelling BS than we ever had in our history too. Case in point, State Fair is coming. Everything's great. It's always fun to do. Sure. And for those that want to go to the State Fair, they're going to look at all the hotels that they know firsthand are worth considering and seeing what rates they have. And they'll book quick and early because they know that's a good enough rate to have. And if not, if it turns out that a lot of people aren't coming because it's hard to get there or whatever, they know the rates are going to go down. They're just going to either renegotiate the rate they have by rebooking, or they're going to find another hotel they know is a good option because they went lower faster than the hotel that they picked. Whatever. If by chance, though, you get ahead of everybody and start talking about the value of coming to there and creating a value proposition, you can actually garner more than your fair market share for that event if you step out earlier in the discovery content that you can in multiple channels like social and things that don't require a large investment as they do have an engaging investment, and begin to cultivate a communication with you about the event where people may have been, I don't know if it's worth going, blah, blah, blah. And you solidify the content way back in time that begins to cultivate the interest. There's a implied loyalty. There's a term for it that when you get something for free, you feel obligated to buy something. I forget that psychological function. My apologies for knowing the exact term, but it is a psychological term. It's like, hey, if I give you something, you feel indebted that you have to buy if I'm selling something for it, kind of thing. But the relationship hook is what you're looking for them to have that. Now, don't forget that just getting the guest is not the end of the communication with them. As a matter of fact, you get the better communication now that they're dedicated to coming to you, because now you get to talk to them in the verbiage of pre-arrival. They have booked with you. Now, remember that confidence factor I talked about earlier on in the conversation? Earlier bookers have less confidence of retention than later bookers have, because if they've made a decision closer to the event itself, they're more certain of their choice than they are early on where they captured it just as a marker, let's say. Now, that doesn't mean we still get to keep them, though, because as we know from same-day cancellations, same-day rate offers, you have somebody in your comp set that just realized that they're not going to get the business that they've been telling everybody they were going to get, so they drop their pants on rate, and all of a sudden they're $100 less than you. And even though I loved the idea of staying at your hotel and loved everything you shared with me and went through the whole relationship building process of communication, it's $100 less. And yeah, it's a little farther or whatever it is, but it's $100 less. I'm going to save $100 a night. And boom, you lost them. So don't, until they're standing at your door and checked in, don't think they're completely yours. That's why this next stage or ladder tier or progression or workflow, whatever term is works within your system, is incredibly important. That's the pre-arrival communication. You need to embrace the content you're giving them as, wow, we're so looking forward to you. We want to make sure you don't miss any opportunity. If there's any additional content that you haven't already shared, this is the time to share it. Updates, change of schedules, improvements, things that they should know specifically because they're staying at your hotel about. We have an extra early breakfast start, or we have extra things on the menu, or whatever you can talk about is now the time on the pre-arrival to talk about as to all the things that you can be helpful on. And it's making sure you maximize the potential experience quality that they are going to have and hype the excitement of them coming. This is going to be great. It's a great festival. Did you know that this artist is also performing? If that's what the thing is, whatever. You are now a fount of happy helpfulness in the pre-arrival. It also gives you a chance to increase potential spend from them. Like, hey, look, with everything going the way it is, you got a great deal with us. This is this, this is this. If you're interested, there are cabana rentals. There is whatever it is, and whatever you can offer in addition, excursions, dining discounts, whatever you can offer. If you want to put it in value of itinerary builders, like, hey, look, you're coming. Simply put in what your performances you're into, and we can kick you back a schedule of what shuttle buses you need to grab at what time to get you to those shows. Whatever it is, this is the time to put it in your content. What to expect kind of conversations, what to expect when you're here. Come to our Port Cochet, the parking's to the left of us. If you self-parking, if you have valet, which makes it so much easier, we can have your car out to you anytime you want to travel, blah, blah, blah. Or the train station's here, the bus station's there, the shuttle's here, whatever it is. This pre-arrival is trying to keep the solidarity of them coming to your hotel, that even when one of your competitors might do a late minute drop in prices or late minute push to try to pull people from you. They're flying from the airport and they geo-targeting saying, hey, look, show this at our front desk and you get $100 off. And I know you can still cancel any other hotel we're competing against. Done those. Where it's like, hey, look, every hotel that we compete against, you have until 6 o'clock cancellation. If you're getting this message, it means you still have time to cancel. I will take you at $100 less or $50 less than the rate that you have with them. Just show me the rate you're going to pay. I've done those kind of things too. You still, until they're not checked in, have them. So make sure you keep this pre-arrival communication cherished, because now you can talk to them personally. Throw everything at them in the ad content or the communication content with them at this point, pre-arrival. And the opening rate on pre-arrival is the highest you're ever going to get. Okay, other than confirmation. When they get the confirmation email and they look at it to make sure they got a confirmation correct. Pre-arrival is the next highest engagement email that you can give to them. And it's email or it's SMS. If you have an app relationship for your hotel, that's the time to use it. If you have a concierge functioning in your app, if you haven't already highlighted, which you should have, make sure you do, so that you can tell them and show them, more importantly, all the reasons why to keep the connection with you. Now, again, not done. Any in-house engagement enhances the engagement they get with your team and staff. This is practical in reality. Not every housekeeper knows everything that's going on. Not every front desk person, as well as they should, knows everything that's going on. Not every engineer or anybody else of your front of the house team, back of the house team, any part of your team, it can be fully fluent. There are hotels that do really well at this, and there's hotels that don't. Most don't. So you don't want to diminish the excitement from the guest that thinks that everybody and their brother they talk to on the emails and the ads that they had with you, they feel like they have a relationship with the hotel. And then some inadvertent housekeeper or restaurant server or whatever rains on their parade with shuttle. I don't know if we have a shuttle to the thing. And yet you were hyping the whole thing. Your team needs to be aware of what it is that's going on, so they can augment whatever you have told them in communication, support it so that there's this continuity in their engagement. But if for chance that does happen negatively, or if for chance they just haven't engaged with a staff member yet, you have to give channels of opportunity. You have to solicit and connect and use channels of opportunity. Make them aware that they can text you if that's the service that you provide. Make them aware that there's an app to engage with if that's the service you provide. Make it aware that there's a phone call that they can make if that's the service you provide. Make it aware that there's a concierge or a front desk place or front desk that they can go to, or whom should they contact for any questions that they may have while staying with you that are all a part of the reaffirmation of what you've told them to expect being with you. Very important for that. So in-house communications. Now, they may choose not to use any of it, so be it. But the fact that they're there makes it the value. Again, not done. Then you have the it's over. Now, this isn't the walk away in the morning kind of thing. This is the I want to continue to talk to you. I want to continue to want you to come back to us. If not for the same reason you came to us the first time, for any other reason that you would choose to come to us again. The post-stay communication is critical to lifetime value. It's also critical to reaffirmation of cultivating new and future guests, because this is where you get your UGC, user-generated content, at its peak. They've experienced what you've told them that they should. Affirmationally, if you've done everything correctly, they're going to want to share their experience because they want to feel proud for a good choice that they have made. They want to tell their friends. They want to tell people, whomever, this was cool. I picked a great place to stay. It did this, like it said. It was close to this, like we said. Remember, we've always talked about it. Everybody has two types of travel. The travel that actually happened, the smelly cab and the broken luggage or the late flight or whatever. But we don't share that unless there's so much of that bad that comes up, then it turns into the story from hell. And then the story that we do tell that skips all that little stuff because you really want to get to the points of why you were so smart picking what you picked and why it was so great to do what you did. That's the story everybody wants to tell. Catch them on the post-stay. This is when the advocacy builds so that they can share the UGC content that you will use to cultivate new guests, but also more importantly, it creates the relationship with them to recur with you. The more recurring revenue you have, the cheaper your advertising campaign is. It is well more than 10 times the cost to generate a new guest than it is to retain an old guest. This is where you ask for their user, their generated content, insights. What did they like best, least, whatever. This is where you ask for the reviews. Can you share what you enjoyed about this if you would like to? You give it easy for them to do this. You give them the links to Google. Google should be first and paramount for you. That is the highest generated user review source that most people use. If you want to throw the TripAdvisor in, I think there is a bit of a fatigue request with guests that, okay, now that you've said that there, if you didn't cut and paste what you said, now you got to type it all over again over here. And am I really want to do that on my phone? Do I really want to do that on my laptop? Do I really want to do it? And you lose at one point, it's when I ask too much. It's also an excellent time to begin to offer loyalty value. Hey, you now know what you can experience with us. Join us, allow us to communicate with you, and we can offer you as value more things to make it even more enjoyable for you. This is that window of chance. If you come back to them too late, if you try to reconstitute after having done none of it, only because it's a year later and they came last year and you're like, hey, remember you came last year? Hey, we want you to come back. You're sitting there going, so for a year you didn't ask. Now, some people really don't want to be bothered. And I'm really one of those ones. This is where if you wanted them to subscribe to deals, be selective and say, hey, look, we don't want to bug you if you're not interested in stuff. If you're interested in some stuff, here's some choices. Do you want last minute deals? Are you close enough to take advantage of them? Do you want to let us know about this same event again, that what we're offering when it starts coming around again? And you know what, if you think you might be back, what time of year do you think you might be back? So we're not going to bug you until then to say, hey, this is an email to let you know last year when you stayed with us, you said that you were thinking about maybe coming back over the fall. If that's still of interest, reaffirm that and we'll start sending you stuff that we're doing in fall. This is the time to do those kind of things. You can incentivize them for sharing. This is the time to go over and say, hey, look, I'll give you, should you want to come back, I can give you a value to come back if you take the time and the effort to share your experience with us. You can define when they're interested in, as I mentioned, in future tense conversations, like, hey, we're not going to want to bug you about things that you're not interested in until you're interested in them. And if you think you might be interested in knowing more about us, pick which one you're interested in, a type of adventure. Maybe you want to travel with the family, maybe you want to travel for business, maybe you want to travel because of what's around us or these events or whatever. And you don't want to be buggered until what time? Just give us a month that you want us to start telling you about what's going on, and we'll make sure we'll leave you alone until then, and then we'll start telling you that information. You can always unsubscribe if you want to. This is that relationship building stage, fifth ring in the ladder, or whatever, fifth step of the workflow on the post-day advocacy lifetime value relationship building. So I think in a relatively moderate granular way, without opening up a Google ad campaign and showing you how to fractionalize the ad steps and create targeting audiences and how to splinter the two and then redefine the targeting audiences for engagement versus non-engagement, I think we got pretty close to particulars as to how to go progressively past the first engagement to having a progressive content relationship through the time cycle of what you do it and when to start it, really, how early you need to start it in relationship to how late you can do it. I think we've covered all of that pretty good in that sense. So with that, thank you so much for watching us around the world. 209 countries our TV channel is in. Our podcast is in 39 countries. We translated into the TV show into 11 languages. If you would like to replay this show on demand, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv. That's our I Love Lucy rerun website. Simply look up data broadcast February 20th and or host Lauren Gray. You'll see a lot of them then. And or topic, which in this case, of course, was the marketing past the first engagement or first engagements, what have you. I put a lot of tags to them so that they came up for a variety of content relevance. And you play back. If, however, you're located in any of the 209 countries around the world that isn't watching this live, and believe me, I'm so impressed with those that do watch me live at the oddest of time zone hours, but we do a recast of this show at 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian time and London, UK time to cover our APAC friends and also our European and EU friends at a more reasonable time zone for the show to broadcast. The show is always on our TV channel. You can get on your smart TV, Google, Amazon, Google TV, Amazon TV, Apple TV, so forth and so on, Samsung, LG, all the rest of them, just simply for the hospitality channel. The live show is always on the free side of the gateway. There is a paid gateway for additional hospitality channel content on the other side, which you can join and cancel at any time, whatever it is for that. Radio station, hospitalityradio.com. It's broadcasted in 36 countries. We have a variety of content on it, not just our marketing show, but we have a sales show, a meta search show, operations show, accounting, HR, different shows from different sources in a very linear format. Our app on Apple Store, also App Store, also Google Play. Just look for Hospitality Channel. It is connected to our TV program as well. You can watch our show, my smiley happy face on it. We are simulcast on a lot of associations and corporate Facebook pages and YouTube channels. Thank you everyone for that. Distributes our content. They do that because they're supportive of the content. And do appreciate that. And see if if you are a hospitality marketer, you wish to join a peer level group that talks about these kind of things on a regular basis, where you don't have to keep re-explaining yourself to somebody that doesn't do what you do. You can join us at hospitalitymarketing.club. Simply go there, put your email in. I send you a quiz to validate that you are indeed a current hospitality marketer. Once you pass that, send you credentials to join. It's not on Facebook or any of the others. It's its own contained ecosystem that you get to join. And it's a lot of fun because then you get to talk to people, and some of them just can blow your mind with how far down the path that they've gone. So anyways, I think we've hit all the self-promotion stuff that we can. My name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.